Good afternoon. Welcome to TNCRadio.LIVE. This is the Truckers Network Radio Show. And now here's your host, Shelley Johnson.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. Yes, this is the Truckers Network Radio Show on TNCRadio.LIVE, where we offer the news, sports, weather, traffic, and entertainment that our commercial drivers want to hear. You know, music is entertainment our listeners love. And today we have trucker singer-songwriter Tony Justice with us. He has a brand new album, 18 Gears to Life, which has some great new songs. Tony Justice has launched a career most can only dream of with 5 full album launches. His latest album is Just Like Justice, all-American, respectful, adventurous, and honors the lifestyle of the hardworking patriots he meets every day. In addition to other country music artists, Tony is a full-time truck driver, so he's a busy guy. Tony, welcome back to the show. I'm so glad you're on the show with us today.
Well, it's awesome, as always, to come on the show with you guys. It's always a good time. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you. So tell us, Tony, in addition to cutting a new album, which keeps you busy, what else have you been up to? I still am amazed that you have time to do all of this.
Well, I don't. You know, we have a great team here at home that helps me, my wife, my stepdaughter, and a couple other people. It's becoming quite the job. So thanks to all those folks, you know, that help. We've been booking shows. Excuse me. We just came off of we played down in Florida, in Wildwood, Florida, for the 75 Chrome Shop show down there in Wildwood, Florida. And the folks with Roadworks presented us and had us down there, and we got to go down there and play some music and meet a lot of people. And we're fixing to go to Dublin, Georgia this coming weekend for Shining the Pines. And the folks at DPF Regeneration were kind enough to present us down there. So we'll be in concert and doing some stuff with Y96 Hot Country FM down there. That's going to be debuting one of the songs off the album and having us on the radio. And, you know, that and you know, just keeping up with the website, merchandise, and you know, all the scheduling, and still running about 2,000, sometimes 3,000 miles a week. So it's a full schedule, but it keeps me out of trouble.
I guess. How do you find time to do anything other than work and sing and perform? Wow.
Yeah, it's just a matter, you know, if you want to do something bad enough, it's not a matter of having the time to do it. You just make the time to do it. You know, I hear a lot of people going, I just don't have time to go fishing. And I'm like, well, you just don't want to go fishing bad enough, or you would make the time to do it. And because I still do that, actually, on top of everything else, still make time to go out and do a little bass fishing, because that's where I go to. That's my clear my head moment, you know, for 4 or 5 hours, and kind of just reset the computers in my mind and clear everything so I can come back and be hopefully a little faster with my mind. And so it's just a matter of making time. You know, we're just genuinely passionate about, you know, trucking, and, you know, what an honor to be writing songs for the men and women who keep America rolling. You know, to me, they're right up there with the military. So it's a huge honor to be making music for them, and they get up every day and give it their all. So I feel like, you know, I need to give it my all for them. So it's just a matter of just getting up a little earlier, sleeping a little less, and just doing what you got to do.
Which is awesome. What have people said about your new album? I mean, you got some great songs on it.
Yeah, so we had this over and over again. The message that seems to be resonating with this album was the one that I was hoping would resonate is, you know, everyone is just saying best album yet, hands down. Even above the Brothers of the Highway album, which I didn't think we would, you know, ever top that album. You know, when we come out with Stars and Stripes, which had Last of the Cowboys on it, that song just went, you know, crazy for us. So, you know, it's always, every time you have a successful album, when you go to record the next one, the tension's always a little higher, and you're digging a little harder to try to at least make it as good, you know, but you always strive to make it better. And we succeeded with this one. And you know, what I thought was a bad thing, you know, with COVID hitting, and it kept pushing the release date out further and further because the studios closed down. It ended up for this album being a blessing in disguise, because it just gave us more time to, you know, to write more, to make sure that we had the best 14 songs we could put on the album. And everything just really came together, and the Lord smiled down on us, and here we are. And I'm just really, really proud of this album.
Which is awesome. So did you write some of these songs or come up with them maybe last year when you were driving? Obviously, tour dates, I imagine. You weren't doing a whole lot of tours, were you?
We didn't do. I think we ended up playing like actually 5 shows toward the end of the year that were outdoor events that we were able to go that didn't get shut down. So, we did have a little flurry of shows toward the end of 2020, but mostly we were, recording and like you said, writing. The trucking side of things never slowed down. Our freight actually increased. So I was trucking pretty hard through most of 2020 and taking what days I needed to off to go to Nashville. So, like I said, give me more time to write. I did write, I think 7 or 8 of these songs as a sole writer on this album. And then I have some co-writes on it. And there's 2 or 3 that I didn't write on at all. So you give me a chance to get out there and do a little trucking, and that's where I do most of my writing. I say all the time that there's inspiration around every curve, and beyond each new horizon, and as long as you look and listen, and so that inside that cab, that's my writing room, and so it helped us to have a little more time to spit out a couple of better songs than what I felt like that we had previously.
I would think it would be a great outlet when you're driving along, instead of maybe getting ticked off at some idiot that's out on the freeway, which there are plenty that drivers have to contend with, unfortunately, to maybe do a little humming and singing and maybe make some inspiration, lemonade out of lemons, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's, it can be a stressful job, driving trucks. It can be extremely enjoyable. And this next thing, it's extremely stressful, and to be able to have some sort of outlet to blow off steam or take your mind off some of the stressful parts of it, to be able to write and create music is an awesome thing to be able to do do that.
Tony, when you write a song and you finish, and you're looking at it, do you have let me ask it this way: how good are you at guessing correctly whether or not it's going to be a hit?
One of the gauges that I use is I'm not the best guitar player in the world. I can sit and do finger picking slow songs all night and be very comfortable. When you get into mid tempo and up tempo songs, that's not my forte. But if I can come home with a melody and lyrics and pick my guitar up, especially if it's a mid-tempo or an upbeat song, and I can play that song on my guitar and it sounds pretty decent, I know I got something pretty good. So
okay.
That's one of the goals that are one of the checks that I do to see if it's something I think I can record, and just how comfortable I am, singing it, the phrasing, and it boils down to the storyline. That's the main thing. Of course, you got to wrap that thing up nice as well. Give away $10,000 diamond ring, but if it's not wrapped with great music and a melody and the phrasing and stuff, and you give it to somebody in a cardboard box, it doesn't have quite the up to it. So,
right.
It's just I get with my producer and I bring the songs that I wrote to the table, and I have my opinions of them, and I run them by him and some other people, and we'll end up landing on something that we feel is the best to put on the album.
Do you ever run it by your wife first to see what she thinks?
Every one of them.
Okay.
She's usually the very first one to hear. I'll usually call her and say, I got this song, and I'll start singing to her over the phone, and so it's her reaction is definitely a big gauge.
That's really cool when you can have that kind of critique and somebody that knows you and says, yeah, maybe not, or just tweak it here, that sort of thing. That's always important to have. That's really cool.
Absolutely. And she doesn't worry about hurting my feelings. So we've been married 10 years now, so I know I'm getting an honest, straight from the hip answer.
Mm-hmm. So what inspired 18 Gears to Life?
18 Gears to Life, there's a line in that song that says, give me a second here. It's a crime. It's a crime that I'm doing time just to send it on down the line. With all the different regulations that we face as truck drivers, it's easy to kind of feel like we're being almost punished for what we do. Just trying to keep America rolling, keep Americans with the things they need to to take care of their families, the products and the goods. And we we get a lot of heat on certain things, and we get talked bad about on certain things. The reputation of truck drivers from the general public isn't, the respect level isn't quite what it used to be. Although, it did spike again during COVID when everybody was out of toilet paper. They were all loving us again and praising us, but that kind of slips away, when things are normal. So just to be able to express, how I feel personally when it comes to some of the over regulations that we're dealing with, we're just trying to make a living, no different than someone out here, a carpenter or someone working in a factory on an assembly line. We're just trying to make a living. And, we're one of the only jobs or industries where you can go to prison for just trying to make a living,
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Yeah.
It's pretty crazy, and it's, unfortunately we, you have two different modes of transportation on one highway, whether it's an interstate or a 2-lane road, and they're two totally different modes of transportation, and they don't mesh well together. So, I understand the safety aspect of it and how important it is for us to be as safe as we can. It would just kind of be nice if the general motoring public was educated a little bit better so they could do their part as well to help us be safer.
I think that personally, I think that should be part of driver's training. Students need to know early how to react, how to drive safely around semis. They need to know the kind of things semi drivers go through, truck drivers, because it's there's a lack of respect and a lot of stupidity, and that just adds to the stress. And then unfortunately, drivers get blamed when they shouldn't. It's just, there needs to be an improvement.
Yeah, there's just some common sense things, and it's our job as an industry to communicate that to the lawmakers and the regulators, and as an industry, we need to do a better job of that. And hopefully, there's a lot of different groups popping up. Drivers that are taking the time out of their personal time to go to DC and have these types of conversations. So hopefully, all the folks that are doing that, I sing their praises, thank them for what they do, and because it's going to be, the whole trucking community is going to have to participate, or at least a large percentage of it, to enough and long enough to where they finally listen, and realize we add a lot of value when it comes to regulations. We're not anti-regulation. We're just anti-over-regulation. And,
Sure.
I've had several conversations with Joe DeLorenzo with FMCSA that, it's, if we see something out here that makes the highway safer, we're going to pat them on the back and say thanks and support it, because when we're 500 and 600 miles away from our family is the general motoring public. They are the ones driving to school, going to church, going grocery shop, or whatever it may be, and traveling around these semis. And we're 500 miles away from home. If they're in an accident, we may not make it back home to see them if they were to, not survive the accident. So, but if at the same time, if we see a regulation coming across the table that makes absolutely no sense, and that we know as a factor as drivers is going to make things actually more dangerous for the general motoring public, then we're going to start raising a little cane with them up there and pointing that out, and hopefully they listen and take our years of combined years of experience of all these drivers and take that into consideration, so we can make better, well-rounded, safer regulations. I don't think we'll ever see the true impact of what highway safety can actually be until they start doing that.
I think a lot of them, if they're making laws, they need to travel with a driver and actually firsthand see what's going on. Of course, This is Shelley's soapbox here, but
well, that would be awesome, but it's never going to happen. I mean, they might jump.
Sure.
I'll jump up in the truck and we'll ride up, 2 hours. It's happened, I think, actually a couple of times. But unless they get to spend an entire week, I think it would take a month to really see all the things that can happen. And so that's just not, that's a great idea, but I just don't know that it'll ever happen. It's just if they'll just take time to listen and use common sense and let us, explain the downsides or upsides of the regulations and really listen to us and take into consideration and make it a better, well-rounded regulation, then we'll, at that point, we'll all be winning the game, especially the general motoring public.
Absolutely. So we're going to be listening to your song War Paint off your new album. Do you want to give us a brief description? We've got about 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, so this is a song that I spent a lot of time in 2019 trying to write this song to pay a tribute to my wife. She went through breast cancer, just diagnosed in late 2018. We spent 2019 doing the surgeries and reconstructions and all that goes with that. It was a big battle for her. And the Lord finally granted me this War Paint title, and through a memory, a childhood memory, I finally got that title. And I wrote this while I was between Nashville and on I-40 between Nashville and Memphis on my way to Texas. And I'm super, super proud of this song. And got a lot of great things going on with Susan G. Komen to raise some money and awareness for them. So lots to talk about with this.
Absolutely wonderful. We're going to be listening to War Paint by Tony Justice off of his new album, 18 Gears to Life. You're listening to the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.LIVE. Stay tuned for more.
Brushed her hair out of her eyes, I told her I love you. It's hard to find the words to say when you get that kindness. She said they called it early, I'm one of the lucky ones, but we used to look at me and say, when it's all said, she's wearing war paint. Now that it's all said and done, she'll never be the same. It's hard to feel like a woman when part of her ain't here today. She stands in front of the mirror, through the tears she sees those scars. She fights off all the fear with the strength of a warrior's heart. She gets up every morning, puts on her war paint, charges out into the battle. When she dreads the runaway, there's a trail of tears from her mascara, but don't underestimate the strength of a woman when she's wearing war paint. She won't give up, she won't give in. She stands tall, proud and brave. Strength of my woman, when she's wearing war paint.
Want to advertise on TNCRadio.LIVE? Take advantage of great discounts for 2021. Check out the sponsors page at TNCRadio.LIVE or send email to info@TNCRadio.LIVE.
This is the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.LIVE. I'm Shelley Johnson with Tom Kelly, and we're talking with Tony Justice, driver, singer, songwriter, who's got a new album, 18 Years to Life. Tony, before we went to break to listen to one of your great songs, you said you've been doing some things with the Susan B. Komen Foundation. I was wondering if you could tell our listeners what you've been doing.
Yeah, I sent you a link, so maybe you can post that link after the show or whatever. So what we're doing is when that song, anytime that single, Warpaint, is downloaded, the 100% of the proceeds of that download are going to Susan G. Komen to help raise some money for those guys, raise some awareness. A lot of these charity organizations suffered a big blow because of COVID-19. They're all kind of struggling right now. And after going through experience with my wife and her breast cancer battle, that becomes something, pretty close to my heart after all of that. I told someone the other day, I was like, anytime you hear of someone having cancer, someone posts about it, everybody really hates to hear that and don't like to hear anybody getting it. But when you live it and go through it and you experience a loved one, such as a spouse, having to go through all that, you realize exactly what those people who are having to deal with are going through at that point. And it impacts the entire family, and it's a terrible disease. Yes. And so when I wrote the song, a good friend of mine named Bill Weaver was like, you should get a hold of, Susan G. Komen or one of the cancer foundations and, see if they'd be interested in doing anything with that song. And so we did. And we got lucky, and we got to hold the right person right off the bat, and they fell in love with the song. So we have a lot of things in the works with them coming up for Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October. They've created a landing page on their website for the Warpaint song where folks can go donate, make a donation, to help out that cause. And if you donate $100 or more, you get a very nice a window decal that says Convoy for a Cure. So we're just now beginning to really work to promote this and get it out there and get the industry behind it, because this impacts so many people, whether it's breast cancer or colon cancer or brain cancer. Sure. There's so many different kinds of cancer. Anytime we can raise awareness, raise some money, help some people out that don't have the insurance. We were fortunate to have insurance, which helped a whole lot. We had a lot of people, St. Christopher's Fund get behind us. I missed a lot of work, so as you can imagine, we got behind on bills. Sure. St. Christopher's Fund jumped in there and paid a month's worth of rent and our electric bill, and it's just really tough. So anything I can do in return, I've been very blessed to get to do this music and have so many people that support it. So I feel obligated to use my music any way I can to help others. So this deal with Susan G. Komen, Convoy for a Cure, is something that people are really going to be hearing about before too long.
That's wonderful what you're doing. I lost a very good friend many years ago to breast cancer, and I know it was just super hard on her family too. I mean, her kids weren't, even out of high school. And I mean, emotionally, they had so many issues. And it was just, and just being a friend is one thing, but I mean, the family members seeing this all the time, it's a tough thing. And unless somebody sees that, they really don't know. And I was just amazed the battle with the medical bills they were dealing with. And,
I mean, just the hospital stay alone was over 100,000,
sure.
And that's not counting all the tests leading up to it.
Right.
Doctor's appointments, medicine, it's just crazy expensive. And it's one of those things that, up to this point, you just think happens to everybody else. Man, when it happens to you, you really start being grateful for these organizations that do so much to help folks who wake up one day out of nowhere and they're just shocked, that they're in this situation. There's so many organizations out there to help those people. And I just want to help anyone who's out there to help other people that might be facing this and give them hope. Misty's was a success story. Yes. And so anytime, you have people coming in, they're just finding out any kind of stories they can hear like that gives them hope,
Absolutely.
And your mindset has so much to do with the success of your battle with it. So we just want put ourselves out there and to be there for those who are going to, be faced with this, that don't even know today that they're even going to have to deal with it, and to be there for when they do.
I think it's wonderful what you're doing. Now, you said it's Convoy for a Cure. Could you kind of give us maybe a little information on, is there a convoy that's going to be held in October, or?
We're working on something that's very early into the discussions, but so, I mean, it doesn't do no good to give a date or a place or none of that. We have some ideals, but, we're working at doing, actually stretching this deal out with Susan G. Komen and partnering with them for more than just the length of this album, maybe even a couple of years, and doing, maybe, who knows, 4 or 5 different Convoy for Cure truck shows with the Convoy, with the proceeds going to them and raising awareness. So we are working in that direction. We're just not able to talk about it yet.
Oh, well, that makes sense. I think it's wonderful what you're doing, though, because constantly creating awareness is really, really essential, because it's something that's going to help with research and certainly empower families. And what you're doing is a wonderful tribute to women. So I want to thank you for that on behalf of my friend, who's no longer here. But I mean, they've made a lot of strides since she dealt with what she had to deal with, certainly. And this is because of these kind of activities and people like you. So what I wanted to ask is, who were some of your mentors when you were maybe growing up, or who was a champion to get you started in the music industry?
Yeah, so that's the easy one. My very first mentor was my mother. She was an amazing singer. I always tell people she was Loretta Lynn and Tammy Wynette, all rode up in one. And she sang gospel music. She always had a gospel group. So I was around when the band was rehearsing. They would play at different churches in the East Kentucky area and travel and do gospel singings. And so I started playing the bass at a very early age. I was 7 years old, actually, when I started playing bass guitar for my mom's gospel group. And so she introduced me to music at a very early age, just like my dad did to trucking at a very early age. I tell people I don't really ever remember music or trucking not being a part of my life. And, from there, I just, I played music with her for probably up till I was 16, 17 years old. And then got away from it, as I got out of high school and went into racing cars and thought I wanted to be Dale Earnhardt when I grew up. And then I ended up meeting a neighbor when I lived in Newport, Tennessee, by the name of Rick Cogburn. And most people won't know his name, but he was a local artist who played some smaller bars up in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And we made friends, and he found out that I played bass guitar. So he invited me to go up there and play a couple of shows with him. Said, I really can't afford to pay you any money. They don't pay much, but the beer is free. And I'm like, hey, what a deal, And so I started hanging around this guy quite a bit. We became really great friends. And then he wrote a lot of his own songs, and he really inspired me to write songs. And I thought, maybe I can do this. And I finally did. I wrote a song, and it was like, I don't know, about a month later after I had written it, there was a songwriters contest at it was a Mexican restaurant up in T.G. Shepherd's, north of the border, was a Mexican restaurant up in Gatlinburg, and it had a bar upstairs, and they were having a songwriters competition that the local radio station was putting on. And my friend talked me into entering it. You could do 3 songs that you had written, and I only had one. And there were about 15 songwriters there. They all did 3 songs, and I got up and did just my one song, and I ended up winning that songwriters contest that night. And I was never really successful in a lot of things at that point in my life, and even with the racing and whatnot, I just never could seem to get sponsors and couldn't get things rolling. And all of a sudden I was like, hey, maybe I'm good at this, and it felt good to win at something, and I was hooked. I've been writing ever since. So my mom and Rick Cogburn are 2 of the people that really got me into the craft of writing songs and singing. And of course, I grew up listening to Merle Haggard, Conway Twitty, and all the good old boys. So between all that combination, and here I am.
That's so awesome. We're going to be listening to one of the cuts off your album called Life on 18 Wheels. We've got about a minute. Could you kind of describe what inspired that song and what it's about?
It's about how I feel when I'm trucking across the highway. It's the second verse says, I love the new horizons and the change of scenery. Every day's different, and that's what sets me free. And that's probably one of the best lines that I've ever written to try to explain how I feel when I'm sitting behind the wheel of that 18-wheeler and it's dusk dark and rolling across I-40, maybe across New Mexico or Arizona out there, and the windows are down. It's a beautiful evening, the sun's setting, and hearing those 18 wheels roll and the turbo whistle and that big Caterpillar growling, and it's just hard to explain. I don't think anybody will ever be able to explain that feeling, but I think I come pretty close with that line, and that's what this song's all about. It's about how I feel when I'm trucking and how much I love what I do and the pride that I take into it.
Very cool. Yes, drivers have the best front office window anywhere, and it changes all the time, and in the freedom, you do have a lot of that, and it's some beautiful country you get to see. We're going to be listening to Tony Justice, Life on 18 Wheels, right here on TNCRadio.LIVE. Stay tuned. Tony's got more to talk about, and we got more music right here on the Truckers Network Radio Show.
Highway's more than blacktop. It's more than these white lines. It's more than just a living, y'all. It's my way of life. Just like my dad before me, I'm addicted to the road. Another day, another town, another long haul load. Slamming trucks, stop coffee down. Midnight, I'm Miami bound. 40 tons of Pennsylvania steel. I'll race the rain, fight the wind. This radio's my only friend. Lord, you know I love the way it feels, living life on 18 wheels. I love the new horizons, the change of scenery. Every day's different, that's what sets me free. Jamming gears, counting miles, crawling up these hills. I don't get tired of this grind, hell I guess I never will. Slamming trucks, stop coffee down. Midnight, I'm Miami bound. 40 tons of Pennsylvania steel. I'll race the rain, fight the wind. This radio's my only friend. Lord, you know I love the way it feels, living life on 18 wheels. Slamming truck, stop coffee down. Midnight, I'm Miami bound. 40 tons of Pennsylvania steel. I'll race the rain, fight the wind. This radio's my only friend. Lord, you know I love the way it feels, living life on 18 wheels. Living life on 18 wheels.
A report of child abuse is made every 10 seconds. These crimes can't be excused. Help Attica raise awareness. Donate or be an Attica member for just $25 a year. Become a hero for kids. Be a hero for Attica.
This is the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.LIVE. I'm Shelley Johnson with Tom Kelly. We're talking with Tony Justice, driver, singer, songwriter, who has a new album, 18 Years to Life, and we've been listening to a number of the cuts off the album. So, Tony, on your new album, which song did you have the most fun writing or performing, or did you have more than one?
Yeah, there's probably more than one, and they're cut up as far as, fun singing or fun writing. I really enjoyed writing the one that just played, The Life on 18 Wheels. I felt like it was a great self-expression, how I feel about what I do. As far as singing, the song that you guys are going to play next, Can't Get There Fast Enough, was a style that's out of my comfort zone. We were talking, during the song there. I was explaining to you guys, how that was out of my comfort zone. But now that it's all said and done, that I'm glad that I took that leap. That's a very fun song to sing. And Broke Down Beer Truck, I loved singing that song. It's so much fun to sing. It's such a fun summertime song. And I didn't even write on that one, actually. So, but it was pitched to us. And we're actually that's going to be our next single. We're fixing to start filming a video for that song in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So those would be the three that really stand out. Of course, my favorite, most personal song on the album was The War Paint that I wrote for my wife. And then there's not a song on this album that I didn't enjoy. We got to record with William Michael Morgan on the Ramblin' Fever, the Merle Haggard remake. Man, he's such an amazing singer, and he sings like I wish I could sing. And I told my wife, I said, man, I got to be careful about who I ask to sing with me on some of these songs, because he's just such a great singer. And got to record with Jane Denham with on the duet. So these were all fun. They were all fun to write and all fun to sing. And I don't know that I could just pick one over another and say it was my favorite.
As an independent artist, I would imagine it helps because you get to sing things you like, rather than maybe being dictated to on come up with this and sing this. I would think that comes out in the music then too. Do you think?
Yeah, I'm pretty hard-headed. Throughout my music career over the last 30 years, I don't know the people that's come up to me and go, well, you're going to have to move to Nashville if you're ever going to be successful. If you don't go to Nashville, you're never going to be successful, And I've always been a family guy, I have a wife and kids, and I was just never willing to, pack them up, go to Nashville. We have great schools around here. They're all pretty safe. And I just was never willing to pack them all up and, for my dream, and then make the sacrifice. I'm like, if I do it right, maybe, who knows, anything's possible. So, being an independent artist, because of that and not going after the big record deal, it's allowed me to record, like you were saying, the songs that I like. And it allows my listeners, the people who support my music, the fans, a chance to get to know the real artist versus me recording songs that a guy in a suit picks out and they're worried about what radio's looking for. We can just wipe that off the plate and we go record what we like and what's fun. And so that's definitely a positive to being, an independent artist and owning your own independent label and publishing company. It's the freedom to be yourself, and it allows your fans to actually know who that real artist is, what he stands for, and what he's about.
And it comes out in the music. It's great music. How long does it take typically when you cut an album? Do you do it all in one session in Nashville, or do you have to kind of break it up because of your driving schedule? And
usually we track it. We'll track an album in 2 to 3 days, and that's just basically the foundation for a home. We call it the foundation for the music. We'll have the drums, guitar, bass, keyboards, and we'll track how many songs that we're doing. If it's 14, we'll try to do 7 one day and then 7 the next. And then we spend the next few months doing overdubs, adding whether it's a harmonica or a violin player or a banjo player, steel, whatever it might be. We even got an accordion on one of our songs. So we spend the next few months, doing those overdubs. My producer, then adds it into the song, and then we'll go in and usually spend about 2 to 3 days doing the vocals, depending on, how my voice and throat's doing those 2 days. But so far, I think we're at a 2.5 days is the most that we've ever spent on me actually singing the songs. And so it's a process. I mean, if everything goes perfect and the pandemic don't roll around, usually start tracking, and you'll have some pre-production meetings, getting the arrangements down, and then you go in the studio and cut the tracks. And time you get everything said and done, the overdubs, my vocals, the harmonies, and then all the goes into the mixing and mastering of it. Usually, you can pull it off in 3 to 4 months.
It's quite a process. I don't think most people realize what goes into cutting an album and how many tracks there are, how many people are involved, and how many times you have to say, nah, let's do it differently, or it sounded great, but could you hit this note? Yeah. Sometimes I'm sure you run into some challenges. You
do. I mean, I can listen to the album now that it's done, and there's some things I wish, like the very first song on the album, we were blessed to get to do a remake of Garth Brooks' Mama's in the Graveyard, Papa's in the Pen. And when my producers sent me the rough tracks, just the rough mix back that hadn't been mixed all the way yet or mastered, it had the drummer in there, and he's clicking his sticks together in the air above his head going 1, 2, 3, 4, and the song kicks in. And we meant, ever since the day I heard it, I said, I want to keep that on the album. Now, that just would be a great way to start an album. The drummer's counting the song in. He's got a cool sounding voice. He's kind of screaming it out there, and that big intro kicks in. I'll be dang if we didn't. I'm sitting here listening to it after we get it mastered, and that's not there. And I'm like, holy cow, how did we forget that? So even after you're done, you look back at things you wish you would have done, wish you wouldn't have done, and you start making changes before the final master, and you begin to question yourself, am I overthinking it? It's a struggle, but it's so much fun. The creative side, I mean, this is what we do, record label, it's a lot of work. I mean, it's so much work. Yeah. And another way you have to love what you do to do it, because there's no way I would put this much time and effort into something unless I just genuinely love something. And so you put all that work, 90% of just hard everyday work, to do 10% of it that's fun, and that's writing, recording, and performing. And the creative side, taking something that never existed and writing words to it, and you just have you and this little work tape and a guitar, and it goes to the next level. And watching that thing come to life, it's like a child. And that's one of my favorite parts of it, and one of the reasons we work so hard on the business side, to be able to do that 10% of fun that's in that 100% of the music business. So it's addictive.
It would be, and to watch everything, an inspiration, what became, what started as an idea, and you kind of worked it up, and then all of a sudden you've got it into a song, and you can see it come to life bit by bit by bit. It's like a flower opening up in the springtime. It's got to be so exciting.
It is. And then, the final payoff is when you're playing a show and you go into a song like Brothers of the Highway or Last of the Cowboy. Everybody that's there is singing every word of that song that you wrote, that you shared. It's kind of nerve-wracking. You kind of, when you write these songs, you're just putting yourself out there, and then people are judgmental these days. Yeah. And so it's nerve-wracking. You're like, man, are they going to like this? They're going to think I'm an idiot. But then you take that risk and you put it out there and you record it, and something, and it hits, like Last of the Cowboys or Brothers of the Highway, and you get 2 million share, downloads and 4 million streams. It's crazy. And that's just such, to know that song wouldn't exist that many people love if I hadn't have made the sacrifices and put the work into creating. That's the ultimate payoff.
And a lot of people don't realize musicians put themselves out there. It's so subjective. And like you said, you've got critics. And quite often you can have a critic that knows nothing about music. And they've got to be, they're the most critical. And that's got to be hard to kind of stand back and go, okay, let it roll off here. This is because that there are so many people who do love it,
Yeah, but and you still have to pay attention to those comments, and do it in a way where it doesn't offend you, because you can learn from that. Constructive criticism isn't always a bad thing. So you have to be able to read those comments, and some of them are just people being mean, but sometimes you can learn from them, and make a better song the next time.
Sure. So we're going to be listening to Can't Get There Fast Enough. If you want to give a brief synopsis for those who just tuned in, what's that song about again?
The song is, it's about that guy that's been out there on the road for 2 or 3 weeks, and heck, he's missing mom. He hadn't been able to hold and kiss and get close to the one that he loves back home. And this guy's finally on his way back home. Man, he just can't get there fast enough. And his little woman at home, he can't get there fast enough to her either. And they end up having a reunion, and it's a pretty cool song. This was the one that was outside of my comfort zone, but when it was all said and done, I'm so glad that we recorded it. It's just a fun, hang on to your hat, let's get her done kind of song, and I'm excited for people to hear it.
Awesome. Well, we're glad you recorded it too. Tony Justice, Can't Get There Fast Enough here on the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.LIVE. Stay tuned for more coming up.
Drug stop caffeine, can of nicotine, got me buzzing like a big southbound Tennessee. Fire up them horses, hammer drop like smoke rolling off the asphalt, flying past the county cop. Baby, I ain't gonna stop. I can't get there, I can't get there fast enough. I can't get there, I can't get there fast enough. Chest bumping, heartbeat, touching down on your street. Headlights hitting your house, pretty thing come running out. Then you kiss me, pull me through the door, and you hit me with a little more. Down the hallway we go, nothing but a trail of clothes. I can't get there, I can't get there fast enough. I can't get there, I can't get there fast enough. Ain't nothing gonna stand in my way, baby. I gotta get to you before I go crazy. I can't get there, I can't get there fast enough. I can't get there, I just can't get there fast enough. I can't get there, I can't get there fast enough. I can't get there fast enough, no.
For the latest in Houston traffic, weather, news, and information, don't miss the Evening Surge, weekdays from 4 to 6 p.m. on TNCRadio.LIVE.
This is the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.LIVE. I'm Shelley Johnson with Tom Kelly, and we're talking with Tony Justice, who has a great new album, 18 Gears to Life. We've been listening to a number of the great songs. Tony, who are some of the people who made your album possible, and where can people find your music?
Well, one of my favorite hashtags and a lot of my posts on my social media is hashtag God and y'all. I always, first of all, think, all the truckers out there, and a lot of people like my music that aren't truckers even, that like just the regular country songs that we record, couldn't do it without them. And also the folks at TBS Factoring, out of Oklahoma City, they stepped up and sponsored this album. We were coming off of a breast cancer year that we didn't do anything, that probably should have bankrupted us. But luckily, the Last of the Cowboys video came out that year. We released it in March of 2019, and that thing just took off, and our downloads and our streams went through the roof, and that ended up carrying us through, and looked like we were finally going to get back on track for 2020, and the COVID hits, that rocked everything. So we were struggling to figure out how we were going to record a new album. It was going on 3 years since we put one out, and the folks at TBS heard our story, and they believed in what I was doing, and they really stepped up and allowed me to have the extra funding for this album to really put out what I think's my best album by far, production wise and studio wise and everything. We just had a little more money to step that game up a little bit more. So they did an amazing job. The folks with DPF Regeneration, they've been supporting me ever since the 18 Wheels and Jesus single back off my second album, and they stepped up to the table and then sponsored us and helped us be able to keep some bills paid so we can keep working on it. And of course, Bull Snot, which is the visible window cleaner, they do a tremendous job of helping us keep going. And so there's just so many people to thank. Anytime you deal with someone who's successful at something, there's so many people in the background that helps make them successful that nobody hears their name. And there's so many people like that behind this. And I thank all of them so very much that they believe in me and are confident that their investment in time is worth it. And so it's pretty awesome. We're very blessed to have so many people supporting what we do.
Absolutely. That's got to give you a lot of inspiration to push forward, even when you've had a really busy week and you could be just ready to drop, say, man, I'm exhausted. That's got to help a lot.
It does. It's just, it gives me so much fuel to keep going. A lot of times I'm a pretty positive guy, on my social networks, my social stuff, I'm always upbeat and positive, but everybody has their days. And I get so many messages from fans out there that, that say, man, I don't think I'd have made that last 100 miles if it wasn't for your music. And I'm like, that right there, that's why I do it. That's what the music's made for. And that's my Grammy award when I hear that. And I'm so appreciative from people who take time to message me and tell me things like that, because that keeps me motivated. That keeps me knowing, hey, I'm not wasting my time. I'm not doing all this hard work for nothing. And so, yeah, it's cool. Like I said, I'm making music for the greatest industry in the world, and what an honor.
Amen to that. It's a wonderful tribute to our drivers. And you guys are our frontline workers. There's no doubt about it. You keep America rolling. So we've got about 45 seconds. Where can people find your music again, Tony?
So, yeah, it's pretty easy. I mean, all my albums are available on, all your digital download platforms from, Spotify, Pandora. We have our own Pandora channel, iTunes, Apple Music. I don't think there's anywhere that you can buy and download music that we're not on there. So you can just search 18 Years to Live for Tony Justice. You can go on my website, TonyJusticeMusic.com, and we have all my merchandise and CDs available there. We have some great bundles, great offers. We have fan club packages that are pretty awesome. And we interact a ton with our fans. So that's one thing we're really proud of. And, hats off to the folks at TA Petro. They, even though most of the truck stops are doing away with CD sales, they still ordered and put our CDs in the truck stops. So very grateful to them for, keeping the dream alive. And those are the three main places: the website, TA Petros, and your digital download platform.
Excellent. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate you being on the show.
TNCRadio.LIVE, your commercial driver navigation station.
Hi, this is Tom Kelly, managing partner of IMSICO LLC, doing business as TNCRadio.LIVE. The website TNCRadio.LIVE and any content or podcast related to the website are copyrights of IMSICO LLC, copyright 2021. All rights reserved. Any redistribution or reproduction of all or any part of the contents in any form is prohibited other than the following: We welcome you to download and play the publicly available podcast and share with others for personal use. Please acknowledge TNCRadio.LIVE as the source of the material. You may not, except with our express written permission, distribute or commercially exploit the content. And while we endeavor to keep the information up to date and correct, we make no representations or warranties of any kind expressed or implied about the completeness, accuracy, reliability, suitability, or availability with respect to the website, the podcast, or the information, products, services, or related graphics contained on the website or podcast for any purpose. Any reliance you place on such information is therefore strictly at your own risk. For additional information, including details regarding monetization of this podcast, send email to podcasts@tncradio.live. .live. 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 .live.